So welcome to the presentation of the PYP MYP programs at Harrisburg Academy. I am David Bechtel, the Director of Admission at Harrisburg Academy, and I will be the moderator this evening. Presenting will be our head of school, Adrian Allan, our assistant head of school and director of lower school and early childhood, Dr. Abby Mahone, and Ben Murphy, our head of middle and upper schools. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Adrian Allan. I am the head of school, and it's my privilege to be able to present this program to you. I wanted to begin, though, by putting the program that we have at Harrisburg Academy and through the International Baccalaureate into some kind of context. I think it's really important that we understand that education is about preparing students for their futures, and not looking retrospectively at what was the kind of education that would work for our futures. The world that our children are going to work in is not going to be the same as the world that we are going to work in. Before we begin then, so let's take a little look. Did you know, for example, that 90% of the information that has been collected actually was put in the last 2 years? Did you know that 60% of the jobs that our children are going to have don't exist at this point in time? Did you know that they're supposed to change their job between 12 and 14 times during their working lives? I've had one job almost all my life. Did you know that they're almost certainly going to have to work with people from around the world? That's the one thing I might be able to do. Did you know for either that 11% of students actually study abroad? That's about 332,000 students. Did you know that 16% of those students who do a BA actually have studied abroad? Did you know that 97% of the students who did study abroad have a job after 12 months? Did you know that students who haven't done that have only a 49% chance that they will have a job by the end of the 12-month period? Did you know that the students who study abroad have a 17% greater income than the students who are only studying in the US? Did you know that 60% of employers are looking for an international background to the people they want to employ from college? This information is really important because it forms the background and the basis of what we are going to present as an educational program for our kids. The basis of the educational program at the Academy starts with a really simple tenet. We believe that students should enjoy going to school. There is lots of evidence that suggests that students who are stressed do not learn as well as students who are relaxed and happy. But it's not just enough for a school to want to be happy. I'm sure that every school says they want their students to be happy. The point is, what is a school going to do to ensure that your children enjoy the experience of coming to the Academy? We have a program called the Community Program. It says that if you want to make people enjoy school, then you need to have some kind of program that makes them feel included. Inclusion is what makes us enjoy things. You also need, in order to get people to feel included, the ability for a student to feel that they are heard, that their points of view matter. And this program consists of a series of activities that we do daily that help our students to get the feeling that they belong at the Academy. And once you get that, you feel happy and relaxed. A lot of schools stress that they have a global perspective. A global perspective is seen to be something that is important. But a global perspective often has simply been watered down in many schools to being something where all that happens is you take a senior trip for a couple of weeks. Or perhaps, if you're lucky, you go on a 2-week bus cruise through some part of Europe with a load of other students who are speaking English to you. What makes a global program is actually putting what you're learning on a daily basis into the lessons. You need to consider things like, do different cultures see this the same way as we do? Even simple or complex ideas like justice are not seen to be the same in every country. Logging might seem to be a huge boon in one country, but a devastating curse in another. So we always try to take the learning that we're giving our students and put it into context. We also believe that it is important to create people who naturally want to find things out for themselves. Once you tell someone an answer in school, they tend to stop thinking about it altogether and just go, well, okay, you're the teacher. You know the answer, I don't need to think about it. At the Academy, we focus very hard on making our students ask questions. We believe that questions create spaces in your mind for storing information. So we make a point of in teaching our students how to ask good questions, because then they will find good answers. We also believe that it is important to foster creativity. But to foster creativity, you have to do one other thing. You have to create growth mindset. You have to make it okay for your students to be wrong. If your students can be wrong, then they can start to make novel solutions to problems. Being wrong is an opportunity to learn. In the real world, English, math, science does not exist in isolation. In the real world, you use your English, your science and your math to look at graphs and information so that you can solve problems. But in school, apparently, we keep these all separate. At the Academy, we make a point of integrating our classes so that all of them are being taught, if you like, together and not seen as simply separate subjects. Growth mindset, then, is also something that we try to model with our students. We try to show our students that it's okay to be wrong, even as teachers. If we do that, then students often find new solutions to problems. We believe, too, that motivation can be increased hugely if a student believes that what they're doing really isn't schoolwork. It's something real, it's authentic. So we try to make the activities that they're going to do seem as authentic as possible. Next. So why should your child go to the Academy? Well, we've talked about the world is changing, and we believe that the Academy has chosen a program and has a way of teaching that actually embraces those changes. Memorization used to be a big deal. When I was a kid, if I didn't know something, it meant a 5-mile bike ride through the rain and snow to find out at the library. Nowadays, if I want to know something and your children want to know something, they grab their iPad, they grab their phone, and there is the answer. What is needed now are conceptual understandings so that we can use that information effectively. At the Academy, we try to teach conceptually. We're teaching your kids too how to learn. How to learn is almost more important than what to learn, especially when you view how the information is changing so rapidly that you can barely keep up with what to learn. You need to know how to get sense, organize, and put that information in a meaningful manner. You need transferable skills to enable you to work in the world of change. You don't know what your job's going to be today, but it will be different tomorrow, but you can need skills that will enable you to be successful at that job. At the moment, no other school is really offering a program like this. We are the only one probably for 50 miles that offers this kind of program. I've worked in 6 different educational systems. I've worked in America, the UK, Finland, which is one of the leaders in education, Norway, which is one of the leaders. I've worked in China, and this seems to me to be one of the best systems. So I am pushing this program to you, not because it's our program, but because it is the best program that is out there at the moment. So next. How is the International Baccalaureate program structured? Well, there are 3 components of this. There is the primary years program, which you will hear referred to as PYP. It goes from preschool to 5th grade. We will talk a lot about these programs at a moment further down in this discussion. There's the middle years program, 6th to 10th grade. But it should be stressed that this does not mean that 9th and 10th graders are part of a middle school. It merely means that the program's continuum goes through to 10th grade. Your 9th and 10th grader are just as much a part of high school as they ever were. The diploma program is the last part and perhaps the best known, and is for 11th and 12th graders. Thank you. Next. Does the diploma work? Well, let me tell you who are the people who used to go to this program initially. They were your diplomats and your business people who worked overseas. Their children enjoyed the program so much that when they returned to the country which they came from, they usually tried to establish one of these schools so that they could continue their education in this program, because they found that their children enjoyed it so much and made such good progress. In fact, there are 66,000 schools around the world that have this program. And people don't often realize this, but 2,000 of them are in the US. 157 countries actually offer this program to their students, often as the gifted and talented program. The program meets matriculation in 157 countries. So when we think about students wanting to study abroad, this is one of the programs that truly opens the door to that opportunity. It might be noted too that 60 out of the top 100 high schools in the US are in fact IB schools already. Do colleges like it? Next. Well, if you look at colleges' acceptances, almost all colleges have some kind of preference for having IB students. If you simply look at, on this chart, at Columbia or Cornell, let's take Cornell. It has 30% of its students, of the acceptance rate, for students who come without the IB. But for students who come with it, a 51%. This is quite a typical kind of ratio. It is not true to say that just because you do the IB, you will get into Harvard. But it does say that if you are choosing to get into a college and you have the quality that is necessary, you will have a much better chance of being accepted if you did the IB diploma. Next. One thing is to get accepted. It's one thing to be accepted, but it's also important that you're successful in the college that you get into. You may not know, but 30% of students in the US actually drop out in the first year of going to college. And only 39% of students actually graduate on time in 4 years. 59% of the students graduate after 6 years. In the IB, with those who've taken the diploma, 98.4% of the students are successful and graduate college in 4 years. They also manage to maintain their GPAs better than their rivals. High school students who come with a high school diploma lose about 0.8 of a GPA point when they go to college. AP students lose about 0.5, but IB students only lose about 0.2. So these students know how to do college, and that is what our own students report when they come back. They often tell me stories about how they knew what to do, where their peers did not, how they were helping their peers to do the kind of inquiry that is requested by colleges of the students. Next. I would like now to ask Abby, perhaps Abby, you could illustrate what does the program look like in an elementary classroom?
Sure, thank you, Adrian. I think just as Adrian talked about some of these core aspects of the overall IB program, inquiry-based education, where students are asking questions and digging into things that they care about and wonder about, transdisciplinary themes where we're not just learning math and reading and social studies, right? Those are at the heart of the PYP, Primary Years Program. And so I've had the joy and the honor to work with the early childhood and lower school teachers at Harrisburg Academy this year to take a really close look at our curriculum and write new units of inquiry where we're still exploring the same content that we once did, but we're doing it in a new and exciting way aligned with the PYP program. So as an example, 2nd, 3rd grade, you'll see students need to study fairy tales, right? It's something very typical in a school. If you go into a traditional school, you might see them reading a fairy tale and reading. And in writing class, they might be talking about sequencing. And in math class, it might be the unit on, addition or multiplication, right? And it's all separate. In our school, what it looks like in PYP when we're studying fairy tales is perhaps the head of school or the assistant head of school comes into the classroom and says, guys, we have a problem. I don't know if you know this, but we don't have very many fairy tales in the library. All of these kindergarten students are coming in. They want to read it, and I just don't have what they need. I was hoping I could hire all of you to do some research, write some new fairy tales, and if you do, I'd love to purchase them for the library so that our younger students can read them. Now, all of a sudden, there's a reason to learn, right? There's an authentic task that our students are tasked with having to figure out. So first, they need to research, what is a fairy tale story? How does a fairy tale in the United States differ from Germany, differ from an Asian country? What does this look like even? What are the parts of the fairy tale story before they can start to write their own? But don't forget, we've tasked them with creating them for our library. And so they need a company to do that. We need to apply for jobs. We need to figure out what jobs exist in the company, right? There needs to be a boss, but there also has to be someone keeping track of all the bookkeeping, right? So there you have your math. You have your social studies unit looking at how companies work and function. And together, as all these pieces come together, the students, they're learning their reading and their writing skills and that content, but they're also fully engaged in a different way than would exist. In this type of unit, you don't have students coming home with the classic answer, right? What'd you do today in school, guys? Nothing. Recess was fun. Right? No, they want to say, Mom, Dad, guess what? I'm the company's CFO. Like, I'm going to make sure the books are balanced, And so already in a short period of time that Harrisburg Academy has been exploring the PYP program and implementing it, we've already seen an increase in student engagement. The teachers are excited and they want to learn more about this and keep on adding new units of inquiry to their curriculum and their lessons. And so it's really exciting, it's really engaging, and we're excited to keep on going down this path of learning through inquiry.
Thank you, Dr. Mahone. That really does sort of fire the imagination to see that kind of program in practice. The Academy also has always believed that it is an important part of the community and that serving the community in some way is an important part of being at school. Our program actually has four opportunities for our students to do service. There's the exhibition, which is a project where the students work in fairly large groups with quite a lot of guidance in grade 5. Then there's the community project in grade 8, where students have a mentor, but are given a lot of autonomy, really, in how they will create the program and the solution. The personal project is really done by yourself and is a way of following a particular interest of yours and yet somehow projecting that as into the community. The CAS project, which is the final part, and often actually was found by people who haven't had a background like this to be difficult, is a service project which you do as part of your graduation requirement. What I like about the service projects is this. The service projects seem to be only about service in many schools, but really because in our school you have to plan your own service, and it's not a teacher coming in and going, I think we should. They learn a lot of life skills. They learn how to create projects. They learn how to organize things, how to plan, how to research what is needed, and how to manage themselves, which is a very, very important skill once you get to college. I'd like to illustrate this with an example. I had two girls who were 13 years old. They had discovered through research that coral was being killed by people using sunscreens. They decided that they would make their own organic sunscreen that would not harm the coral. So they researched what made a good sunscreen. They then went online and went to GoFundMe and raised $600 in a matter of hours for their project to create a safe sunscreen. They created their own website. They made their own marketing plan. They even developed a brand with a logo. And they produced and priced their product. These 13-year-old girls also created a limited company, which they now have an office for and a bank account. And the bank account generated sufficient funds to send them to Australia to learn how to grow coral. When I asked these girls, how could you possibly do that? I could never have done this when I was 13. I asked them, how did you know how to do this? Their answer was, well, I learned how to do this when I was in the exhibition in 5th grade. We learned how to organize and do stuff. This is what I think most parents would love their kids to come out being able to do. So this part of our program is not just a side part. It's not just something extra and you have to do it sort of to be a good person. It's actually a very important lesson. And it creates the kind of students that we really, really want our academy to produce. People who are going to make a difference in the world. And if you look at our mission, making a better world is part of our mission statement. Okay, you ought to hear a little bit about MYP. And how does MYP handle these problems and make a successful program? Mr. Murphy, could you explain that to us?
I can, Mr. Allan. I've got the time. So here we go here. So what you see on the screen right here is the kind of the IB's version or visualization of the middle years program, which is grades 6 through 10. So again, this involves 8 subjects, 8 subject areas. I'm not going to go into each one specifically there, but you can see that right there. But they are all interconnected. And really, when these are hitting the same standards we expect our kids to learn, across states, but then really, I would say they're standards plus. We're going above and beyond these standards. So while it is a broad curriculum, it's also a curriculum of depth. It's not just, we're going to touch on this, we're going to touch on this, we're going to touch on this. In all these explorations and all these engagements, the kids are learning how to learn. It's not just about the facts, it's about what can you do with the facts. So, and on the next slide, we're going to talk about approaches to learning a little bit, but basically, we're going to get kids excited about learning with it. So it's about these big ideas, these concepts. For example, like this overarching concept like relationships. If you look at something like relationships, that can actually go into each of these 8 subject areas: science, math, humanities, technology. You could talk about relationships in all of those different areas. And then what that means is you have these transdisciplinary opportunities. Art and math can work together on relationships. English and science can work together on relationships. What does that actually mean? So you have a lot more collaboration with faculty as well. And that's a great benefit to this too. So just as Mr. Allan was talking about with the community project or the personal project he was talking about, students are tackling real life problems. I mean, this is not just something where it's just like, oh, I've got to do this for class. This is something that they're going to be interested in, something that they are going to be passionate about. And I mean, I can speak to this from one of my previous schools is in Hawaii. With the personal projects, we had a student who actually designed a way of kind of a system to clean HVAC systems, to clean air conditioners. And like a company was like, looking into that, like, hey, maybe I want to use this for my business. So, I mean, just when you give kids that opportunity, they really take that and run with it. And then it's also, there's this collaboration too. It's not just I'm in this silo, this is what I have to do for my learning. It's really much more collaborative, and really what I appreciate too is cuts down on the competition a little bit too. It's not as it's not as cutthroat, I would say. I mean, there's still that challenge, and the kids are pushing each other, but it's not the clamoring over each other to get to the top. It's like, how can we get there together? I think that's part of the benefits of this. One of the things that I've noticed when I've taught at a school that had the middle years program. And every day it's in context. These lessons aren't just one-offs, and they're not just separate from everything. It builds, and it builds across the subjects there. Dr. Mahone, next slide, please. So just again, kind of, I guess, at a glance, or kind of a summary, and this chart that you see here, I love, how would you describe their experience as learners? And I love that phrasing, experience as learners. So it's not just experience as students or experiences as this, but like, how has this actually helped you develop and to develop these skills that you're really gonna use beyond school? I mean, maybe I haven't gotten a grade in a long time, but I'm engaging in self-reflection every darn day. I'm figuring out how I can support, the people and the students that I'm working with. I can figure out, it's a little bit It's a little bit light there, but the bottom one, the 80%, is sense of fellowship. And I think that speaks to the collaboration rather than the competition part of it, where it's not just, man, I've got this person next to me and we're going for this. How are we going to work on this together? And this learning how to learn. Actually, if you go on Coursera.org, their most popular class is entitled Learning How to Learn. So this is not just something that's just like a pie in the sky idea, or just this is going to be gone next week. I think this is here to stay. And with these approaches to learning, focuses on the social part of it. How do you get along in a group? How do you get along with others? The communication part of it. How do you analyze text? How do you present? The self-management, which gets into that grit and resiliency that's becoming more and more prevalent in schools today. And how do you do that? And just how do you develop empathy as well for everybody? And there's the thinking part, there's the research part as well. So there's those kind of more traditional skills that you have in there, but really it's all comes together, and that's the expectation that we help kids develop those skills. So they can just go approach something independently and be able to figure out how to do something without, as Mr. Allan and Dr. Mahone talked about, without a teacher telling them you should do this. So in that sense, it's kids developing more consideration for their learning rather than like a compliance kind of focus on their learning. Like, oh, I've got to do this because I got to do it for grade. No, I want to do this because I want to learn about it. I want to make sure that I can understand this so I can share it with other people, and I can make a difference on these big local issues, and also these big these big global issues. And a neat part of this is, and it kind of goes throughout, it kind of starts with the tech design subject in the middle use program, is this design cycle. There's all different versions of design cycles. At Stanford Design School, I worked with a little bit at I knew of it and worked with them. I'm not going to toot my own horn because that didn't happen. But this opportunity to come up with an idea, and then we're going to test it, and then we're going to take feedback, and we're going to refine it, and we're going to repeat that process. Each iteration develops something better and more refined, and just more understanding. And you're just with that, you're getting that feedback, and you're not just doing it. Well, like, I think this idea will work. Well, no, you got to think about how it's going to work for the people you're trying to help. And that gets into the opportunities for that real world application of knowledge. These are not just going to be classroom activities. These are going to be stuff we want to get kids out in the community more, which I know that is a big thing that I've heard from a lot of families. How can we get out in the community more? The middle use program can definitely do this. And I will say from experience too, the school I was at in Hawaii, we had kind of different stages of when you're implementing the program. The kids that I taught the diploma program. The kids I taught in the diploma program that had 1 year of MYP, where you could tell the difference between those that had multiple years of MYP versus those that only maybe had one, and where we were just kind of trying to figure it out. So it builds on that. And I think, having this program in here too, and again, we are in the application phase for that. We're not as far along as the PYP. So we're probably about a year behind in terms of the application phase, but the focus is getting that application done. And then maybe even if we're not necessarily approved, just like they're doing in PYP this year, figuring out how can we practice those skills that we need to do? How can we start implementing some of these pedagogical strategies, teaching techniques, and helping our kids develop these skills, starting that as soon as we can, even if it's not necessarily official, if you will. So that was a lot on 2 slides. Thank you all for listening.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to also touch a little bit on this to explain, why did we want to do PYP and MYP? Why don't you just do the diploma like everybody else has been asked to me several times? Why don't you just do the diploma? The diploma is the bit that gets you into college. Well, I want to draw again a little bit back on both Ben and my experience in Hawaii. We ran schools where initially the idea was the diploma was for the gifted. It was only for those with gifted and talented students, the top 30% of students, too difficult for other students to do. We introduced PYP and MYP because we wanted to increase the number of students who were able to do this gifted and talented program. My own school in Hawaii had a graduating class of around about 50, 60 students. All the students could do the diploma once we had given them the PYP and MYP. I liken this to playing a game. If you want to play tennis in 11th and 12th grade, it pays to learn to play tennis in kindergarten, not to play soccer, because although soccer is a nice sport, it probably doesn't prepare you to play tennis. You are used to kicking things, not hitting things. So although gifted athletes can probably take up tennis quite quickly, the more average student was struggling with this. But once we taught them to play tennis all the way through the school, they could do it. So our objective in teaching MYP and PYP is to prepare our students to be successful in the diploma, because we know how much this will advantage them when it comes to getting to college. So we are desperate to make sure that everybody has those skills at the academy. The other thing I should say here is, one of the things that I also noticed is that the amount of offers that our students got from colleges and the amount of money that they were offered in scholarship to come to various colleges increased exponentially once we were a full IB school. People really came over to grab our students and get them because they knew, hey, they're going to graduate on time. It is a problem for universities to enroll students who drop out, because if a student drops out halfway through the program, you have to find another student who's halfway through the program to steal from some other university. It's very challenging. So one of the reasons we're doing this is to help our students get offers, to help our students get funding to go to college. Next slide. What the school is trying to create are graduates who are confident in their own abilities, prepared to go to college, who have social skills to interact with other people effectively, and who have strong academics. Because trust me, the program we're offering here is not a watered down, mamby-pamby kind of weird program that is non-academic in some way. This is highly academic. We're offering state standards and more. Our students are very well qualified. And perhaps the most important thing to me, I want to create students who I would like to have live next door to me. The kind of students who are kind, smart, kind, and they want to contribute to society. The program that Harrisburg Academy is offering your children is exactly that. It is a program that will ensure that they have the kind of skills they need for the 21st century and the skills to be socially competent and contributors. Harrisburg Academy's been a proud leader in learning in the past. And the International Baccalaureate and our program is one more step in making sure that we provide a bright future for our students in the 21st century. Those steps cannot be, the method cannot be what it used to be, because the world is not going to be what it used to be. What is needed is a brave, bright program that will teach our students the skills they need. So I really encourage you to explore the school, to take a look at coming to the academy, to get in touch with Dave and ask to see what we do. The information you need is on the screen there, and we are dying to share what we have. We believe that we are a school for the future and that we can advantage your students. So please take a look at Harrisburg Academy. And if you want, dial into 717-763-7811 and make an appointment to hear more. Thank you very much.